Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. Doing a tag for Tag Tuesday because I haven't done one in a while. Again, I've I need to start listing who tags me and things because my mentions thing's broken, so I can only see mentions from a year ago. So I I can't remember who's tagged me and things. I probably have been tagged in this, but I can't remember if anyone did. And this is the reader's profile tag, which was created by Book Bustle, who I believe hasn't made a video for a while, but they're quite a new channel, and I think they did it as a version of the BookTube newbie tag. But I've seen Pat do it and Gavin do it and other people, so I'm going to give it a go. It looks really interesting. Prompt number one is just what for you makes a good book, and I've been thinking about this because it is a deep question. There's another tag going around about why we like books. I think for me, if I look at my favorite ever books, the main way to get me to like your book is to have good characterization, and I think that's often why I struggle with shorter books, or I can really enjoy a shorter book, but it's never quite 5 stars for me, unless you're a weird person like Claire Keegan, who just seems to be able to get loads of characterization into very short books. But that doesn't really explain my love of kind of golden age science fiction and fantasy, because science fiction especially is often lacking in characterization, especially people like Asimov, Heinlein, and Arthur C. Clarke. They don't really care that much about characters. They just give you enough to get by. They care about ideas. So I guess the ideas and relating different worlds to our world and stuff as well also really interests me. And I thought the third element, which I think is the older I get, the more important it becomes to me, which is just the book to be fun. I think I've struggled now to read miserable books too much. And the older I get, the more books I just want to be fun and have a good time with them, rather than have a completely miserable life of the character. So yeah, I think characterization is probably my main thing. I care less about plot generally, but I'm still love a genre book that is all plot and no character as well. So it is hard. It's a hard question to answer because it can be everything. It can be everything. Just do it well and be fun. What are you currently reading? I just started this Love and Saffron, and I've been reading it for Shorty September for the, I can't remember what shorts it is. It's the one where you make some food based on the book, and this book is basically all about food and friendship. And it's two magazine columnists writing to each other and becoming friends. And I've ordered. Like I said in my last video that I was going to make something from there, but not with saffron. But I've actually ordered some saffron off eBay. You can buy some saffron off eBay and have it shipped to you. So I'm thinking about making Swedish saffron buns, maybe, or something else. I don't know, but it's good so far. 3. What is the last book you didn't finish and why? I think I start loads of books and read like one page and don't finish them, but I don't count that as because I'm just seeing what I'm in the mood for. The last book that I got at least 100 pages into and didn't finish is Sharon Penman's When Christ and His Saints Slept, which is a bit annoying really, because I've bought at least one other one of her books because they sound really interesting to me. and they are quite interesting. Her other one is about the Plantagenets, so maybe that will appeal to me more because I love the Plantagenets. But I saw when I was sort of looking at this book on Goodreads and stuff, I saw people saying that she's overly researched. She shows her research too much, and it's a bit annoying. And I thought that won't bother me because I love history and I like detail. I like realism. But it did kind of bother me because I just kind of uh, I wasn't. She doesn't work that much on the characters, so I was just thinking the whole time, oh, I'd just rather read a history of this because it's about Maud and Stephen, or Matilda and Stephen. She was also named, and it's kind of just basically a narrative history of what actually happened. So I just kind of wasn't in the mood for it and just wanted to read a history book instead. Plus, it is massive, so bailing at 100 pages, I had 800 pages left, so I don't feel too bad about it. Um, what obscure book do you wish other people would read? I went onto my Goodreads for this because I couldn't think of one off the top of my head and just sorted by the least amount of ratings on Goodreads. And one that popped out that it isn't the least read, but it only had 2,100 ratings, is Meadowland: The Private Life of an English Field by John Lewis Stemple. Because I read this, I can't even remember now. Was it earlier this year? I think it was earlier this year. And it's just a diary of a year in this guy's life, just through through a field. So he has a hay meadow, which is becoming rarer and rarer in England now. It's just a hay meadows where you let the wildflowers grow and don't put anything on them. So it's not the same as leaving something fallow. It has to have these flowers and things in, and it just he would walk through the field every day and make notes of how the field changed over the year, what animals he saw in their lives. There's like the little dramas of these animals in his field that you follow, and it's just a really relaxing, nice nature book. And and it's about England as well, so it's very interesting. You don't get too many interesting nature things in England generally, but this was just really nice book, and it's a beautiful cover as well. So I think it did actually sell quite well, but I don't ever see anyone talking about it. And one book I saw that had under 1,000 ratings is Dr. Wortle's School by Anthony Trollope. But I mean, Trollope has 55 books or something, but that's a great book. It's a great little Trollope book. Um, Again, things that were written before the invention of Goodreads tend to have lower ratings and less ratings than things invented after Goodreads. That, um, yeah, I'm sure in the Victorian times there was loads of teenagers rating Dr. Wortle's School, but not on Goodreads. They must have just run around rating it, shouting out 5 stars to all their friends. Um, what's the longest book you've ever read? I'm pretty sure it's Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which is 545,925 words long, and that is considerably longer than War and Peace. And I thought maybe Brandon Sanderson would be near it. And the longest Sanderson I can think of that I've read is that Oathbringer, and that was nearly 100,000 words less. So it's massive, Les Miserables. And the annoying thing is, about 200,000 words of that are really boring. The other 350,000 are brilliant, but there's about 200,000 words in it that you could have just lost if you had an editor. Everyone knows the famous sewer history of the sewers, which is like 80 pages long in some editions. But that isn't even the most boring bit. There were some really boring bits in that book. Um, but I loved the book overall. Um, if you could have a dinner party with five fictional characters, who would they be? This is similar to the last tag I did, the Adventures Assembled tag, where it was like your pub quiz team and things. But so I'm going to pick Jeeves again, from Jeeves and Wooster by P.G. Wodehouse, um, just because he knows everything and he'd be quite an interesting person at the dinner party, and he does know silver service. So if we're short hands, he can help. Um, and then I'm going to go with Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple because I think it would be good to get them in a room together. Um, and I just feel like it's going to be a murder as well because it's a dinner party, and all the books where there's a dinner party, there's a murder. So we need them there to solve it. Uh, I'm going to go with Jack Aubrey from the Aubrey and Maturin series by Patrick O'Brien, because there's lots of scenes in that around dinner tables in the ships, and they always get drunk and have a good laugh. I could have chosen Stephen Maturin, but you always choose the lesser of two weevils. Um, and just I'm going to round it off with Nobby Knobs from Discworld because who doesn't love a rat pie? And it's always nice to have sort of weird, smelly person there as well. Um, five books you'd want if you were stranded on a desert island. I'm going to start with a book I've read. I think I've read it 3 times, and I feel like I could read it over and over again and find something interesting and new every time. And that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I was tempted by War and Peace because I really like War and Peace as well, but and it's longer, so it would last longer reading it on the desert island. But I just love Anna Karenina too much. It's one of the greatest books ever written, and it's very readable as well. I think people often get intimidated by Russian novelists, but Leo Tolstoy is basically a soap opera writer. It's just soap opera of Russian aristocracy, and his themes are pretty universal. He writes a lot about sort of obviously love, war, and family. But yeah, I love Anna Karenina. It's a great one, and I would take this version translated by Rosemary Edmonds. Another book that I've read, I think I've only read this twice, but when I was talking about what makes a good book, and I said for me the most important thing is characterizations, I was one of the books I was thinking of is this Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Again, a book I would just recommend to everyone, even if you have no interest in westerns. I'd never read a western before I read this, but it's just a book of brilliant characters, and there is adventure in it as well. There's adventure, but they're old men adventure, so they're not quite what they used to be, but it's just a wonderful story with great characters. Highly recommend it, and again, I just don't think I'd get bored of it. Another one, I guess all of these I wouldn't get bored of because I'm bringing them on the desert island. But another one that I don't think many people get bored of is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I would be tempted to take Mansfield Park because it's longer, and I know it. I don't know it as well, but I just think Mansfield Park has not as much happiness and joy in it for me because poor Fanny Price is picked on by everyone, and I just think Pride and Prejudice is the funniest one, isn't it? It's a perfect book, and even though I know the story very well, I think I would still enjoy reading it over and over. That's 3. Fourth is a book I've only read once, but it is again a book of characters, a book of many characters though, which is Middlemarch by George Eliot, and again, like Lonesome Dove, you really know the characters in this. But what's more impressive about it in Middlemarch is there's loads of characters that you really know very well, and it's not even hugely long book. This is just under 800 pages. That's quite long, but I when I read this, I thought I can't believe it's this short. I would happily have had another 200 odd pages easily. Um, yeah, I just think Middlemarch is the pinnacle of characters in Victorian novels. So, uh, characterization. The plot is definitely slow going. So if you're very plot based, I don't think you'd like it as much. But I just yeah. Again, also the characters in this are not as likable as Gus and Cole in Lonesome Dove. There's some fairly dodgy characters in this. And lastly, a book that was meant to be one book, but some people might call it three books, but I would disagree, and that is Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Uh, Obviously, this is a big, chunky book, and I think was the greatest ever fantasy book, maybe the greatest ever genre book. Um, I especially love the Fellowship of the Ring, but I love all of it, and I would happily read it over and over again. I do need I reread Fellowship of the Ring recently, or last year, and I need to reread The Return of the King. Not The Return of the King, The Two Towers next. But I feel like they're Christmassy books for some reason. I'm going to read that around Christmas, December time. So they're my 5 desert island books. I found that really hard because I had to leave out Ursula K. Le Guin, but I couldn't think of one book. I probably, if I had the whole desert island disc style, I would take The Left Hand Darkness as well for sure. One book that you could not put down. When I think of can't put down, I don't think of Middlemarch. I think of quite light reads that you fly through, and I'm going to go with The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary, which is just a romance about 2 people who can't afford to live in a flat in London, which is very realistic because flats in London are absolutely rip-off. So one of them works nights, one of them works days, and they come to an arrangement where one of them lives in the flat at night and one of them lives in the day, and they'd never see each other. But they start to leave notes for each other on the refrigerator, and they sort of fall in love through refrigerator notes, and it's just like a perfect little modern romance. It's obviously not going to win the Booker Prize or something, but it's just nice and fun and funny and well done. And I just read it in like a day or two. 5 books or authors that you will never read. I'm not going to go into too much depth for this one because I don't want to offend anyone. But these are basically authors that I've tried at least one of their books, and well, one book for all of them actually, and it not offended me, but I hated it so much that I will never read another one of their books. I'm a well-known enemy of what's the name? R.F. Kuang of Yellow Face and Babel fame. Luckily, I read her early and read The Poppy War, her fantasy novel, which she wrote when she was about 19, which is absolutely atrocious, and one of the worst books I've ever finished because it's chunky as well. But I will never read Yellow Face or Babel because of that. And they're quite well regarded, those 2 books, but whenever I hear anyone describing their sort of experience reading it doesn't sound like they're enjoying it, and then they say, oh yeah, 4 stars or whatever, but they're like, oh, I hate all the characters, I hate all this, and then 4 stars. She's rubbish. I think she's rubbish. I think that everyone's lying to themselves. um, but yeah, no. Some people, I'm sure she's great. I'm sure she's great. Um, Another one of my lifelong enemies is Audrey Niffenegger, the author of The Time Traveler's Wife. Um, Another appalling book. Uh, who I for for years I've been sort of arguing with Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading about this book. It's dreadful, and I hate. It's one of the ongoing themes in this list of authors I hate. the the characters and all the characters in the book are horrible people that are rich and pretentious. I'm just the way they talk is insane. Like you would never. They talk about the price of everything in their house all the time. It's diabolical. It's meant to be a time travel book as well. Um, you've got this brilliant like fictional thing that you could do, and you waste it on horrendous people that you wouldn't want to stand next to at a party. Um, Speaking of which, Avni Doshi, the Booker Prize nominated author of Burnt Sugar, another book that I like. Against this one, I kind of see why people like because of the writing's quite good, but again, I hated everyone in the book. Just privileged rich people whining. Um, this next one is more on the poppy war side of things, and that's Natasha Pulley, um, who I know is um, is Katie from Books and Things' favourite sort of modern day author, but I just did not get along with her book, The Watchmaker of Filigree Street, and I think it's because I hate I hate modern language in in historical things, and I think it was bothering me too much, and I just really put me off her. And uh, the Poppy War was the same. Everyone in the Poppy War, um, by R.F. Kuang, speaks like a teenage girl, but they're meant to be like medieval Chinese people or whatever. Um, and finally, with Natasha Pulley, I think I probably that was more time and place to some degree, but I just it really annoyed me at the time, so I probably won't go back to her. There's a chance I will because her books sound quite interesting premises. The last one I definitely will never read another one, and that is V. Schwab. Um, what was her book called? The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Absolutely appalling book. Who Will Chambers, the booktuber Will Chambers, did a brilliant takedown of once. Really made me laugh. But it's just a, a book about a woman falling for someone who tortures her for hundreds of years. It's horrendous, and I see that kind of trope in YA a lot, and I will forgive it if you admit that you're YA. But V. Schwab purposely marketed that book as her entry into adult fiction and not YA, but it's a YA book that's pretending it's not. And also, I just don't think it's a good message to send out that the romance in that book is so. It's basically like a swimming pool of red flags. I don't know why anyone would think that's nice to read about. I've gone on far too long. I've gone on far too long. 10. If you were to write a book, what would it be about? I was thinking about this because I've got no ideas. I've got no good ideas, but I think if I did write something, it would be maybe a series, and it would have to be something silly and funny because I couldn't write a serious book. I don't think I could have even tried. I would like to do something like comedy historical fiction, because that would be fun to research as well, or sort of quite funny light sci-fi or fantasy. I'm thinking like Discworld type books, but I don't have anywhere near the talent or writing ability of Terry Pratchett, so it would be knockoff. Yeah, the last prompt is just to tag people, but I'm not going to because loads of people have done this, and it's been around a while. So yeah, that's the reader's profile tag. I just think it's a really nice tag. Gives you a nice overview of um, someone's preferences and what they like in books. So if you see this and want to do the tag, or if you're a commenter and want to answer any of the prompts, put them in my comments. And if you like all those authors I just sort of said I hate for like 15 minutes, I'm very sorry. Have a good one, BookTube. Bye.